do we know this is a gun?
That's the gun.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Sorry.
Just relax. Just relax.
I'm scared.
You're all right. Just relax.
It's so much that I got out of.
And that is some new body cam video shown today in the first day of trial over that tragic shooting on the movie set Rust. At the center of this is the woman in charge of all the weapons on that set, now facing manslaughter. Anna Gutierrez Reed was the person who loaded the gun that Alec Baldwin used before it went off, killing the film's cinematographer, Helena Hutchins. I'm Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. And today, prosecutors wasted no time in their opening statements in trying to paint the movie's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, as sloppy and unprofessional and responsible for that fatal bullet that was fired from the gun Alec Baldwin was holding when he pointed it at the movie's cinematographer. There was this moment in court that could play a pivotal role in the prosecution's case. Take a listen.
I do want to leave you with one final statement, and this is a statement that Ms. Gutierrez made when she was being interviewed on the day of the shooting. She says at the end, I don't know. I wish I would have checked it more. And so do we.
Meanwhile, the defense says she was overworked and is putting the blame on Alec Baldwin for being the one who actually had the gun when it fired off that fatal round. He's going to be tried later this year.
Mr. Baldwin pointed it right at him, either had his finger on the trigger and depressed or pulled it, causing that gun to fire and hit Miss Hutchins. Miss Gutierrez Reed, you're not going to hear anything about her being in that church or firing that weapon. That was Alec Baldwin.
Gutierrez Reed is facing up to 3 years in prison if found guilty on charges of involuntary manslaughter and evidence tampering. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffith joins me now from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Dana, thanks so much for being with us tonight. These descriptions from prosecutors of Gutierrez Reed being sloppy or negligent, what are they basing that on?
So, again, they say that was because they called her sloppy, they called her negligent. They say that she is the reason those live rounds wound up on the set and got mixed in various ways, not just in the gun that killed Helena Hutchins on October 21st, but they have evidence and photos that show that there was live rounds on set even days prior, including on two actors' gun belts, including one that was worn by Alec Baldwin. They say that she is responsible, and they plan to call several witnesses that could talk about how unprofessional and negligent she was, and that's what we're going to be witnessing over the next 2 weeks of this trial, Gadi.
And Dana, meanwhile, you have the defense, on the other hand, arguing the state is using Gutierrez Reed as somewhat of a scapegoat, right?
Yeah, they say that she, was young, was working 2 jobs on this movie set, something that should not have happened. They point to an OSHA report that also found fault with the production of this film set. And they say that she even emailed her boss saying that she wanted more days as an armorer so that mistakes wouldn't happen. She wrote in an email to the effect that when I'm not doing those duties, mistakes happen. The defense is also pointing the blame directly at Alec Baldwin, saying he is the one that pulled the trigger and he broke the #1 rule, which is that actors do not point weapons at crew members. So they're also blaming him. They're also blaming the investigation. They are trying to poke holes in the prosecution's case, pointing to shoddy investigations, and also pointing to a key here that the rounds that were in that revolver have yet to be found. Gadi?
Yeah, what a mystery. What did we hear from the first witnesses today, and who else are we expecting to hear from?
So we heard from 2 officers that first responded. We also got to watch their body camera video showing those intense moments when they responded on scene, went inside that makeshift church and saw the victims, Helena Hutchins, on the ground. She was moving her head back and forth, obviously in pain, and also director Joel Souza audibly screaming in pain. We saw them load her into a helicopter. We learned more about how long it took for them to get her stable that day. She ultimately passed away, as we all know. We also heard from a crime scene tech that took photos and found several rounds of live ammunition mixed up with dummy rounds that were later confirmed by an FBI analysis. So they are bringing these people to testify to paint the picture, as you mentioned, of Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the defendant in this case, of being sloppy and unprofessional. And maybe she should not have had this job, according to prosecutors. If convicted, she faces up to 3 years in prison. Gadi.
Dana Griffin, thanks so much. Let's quickly bring in NBC News legal analyst Angela Sanandela. Angela, the prosecution presented several images of these live rounds that we just saw versus these dummy rounds, along with pictures of Gutierrez Reed around some ammunition on the set. I believe some of it was on her lap. How does the defense argue against that?
So, Gadi, this is all part of the prosecution's somewhat new and recent strategy to claim that it was Hannah Gutierrez Reed who brought these live rounds onto the set. Now, her team is arguing that it was not her, that it was allegedly the ammunition supplier. Now, here the prosecution could still try to argue that she should have known the difference between live and dummy rounds. Here, they're clearly on her lap. But her culpability definitely decreases if she was not the one, if the prosecution cannot prove it. So what Gutierrez Reed's team is doing is what is not uncommon in defenses to involuntary manslaughter, and they are just pointing the finger, because even if the prosecution could claim and prove that she was totally reckless and totally negligent, if the defense can prove that there was actually someone else or some other event that was more closer to the cause of the death, of the involuntary manslaughter, then she could be off the hook, Gadi.
And Angela, I wanted to ask you this. If the defense is able to paint this mystery around some bullets that may or may not be missing, what does that do to the case?
So that is a big deal, because it all comes down to what the standard is, what the safety protocols are, and where are all of these bullets. It goes to both sides. I think the investigation, as Dana mentioned, has had a lot of holes, and nobody really knows how these bullets got onto the set, and the investigation hasn't really proven one way or the other. So the defense and the prosecution are both going to use that. The defense is going to claim that this shows how shoddy the investigation was, and the prosecution is going to claim that, well, look, Hannah Gutierrez Reed should have been the one to know out of anybody on that set.
And Angela, finally, that evidence tampering charge, I know that it has something to do with cocaine. Can you walk us through how that plays into all of this?
This is so interesting, because the prosecution seems so committed here to portraying and painting Hannah Gutierrez Reed as an avid, chaotic cocaine user. Now, in a normal trial, this would be almost guaranteed to be inadmissible evidence. Recreational drug use is not directly relevant to a manslaughter charge. But what they did is the prosecution investigators found that she had passed a cocaine baggie, allegedly, to a friend during the active investigation. So then they tacked on this additional evidence tampering charge, which was frankly brilliant, because then with that charge, all of her alleged cocaine use becomes very relevant to the case, and they can use that to the jury to prove that she was negligent, she was reckless, and she should have known better. She was not overworked. She was, in fact, an alleged drug user.
Angela Sanandela, we always appreciate your insight. Thanks so much. And if your cell phone was acting a little fishy today, AT&T is saying most of their customers should have normal cell phone service back after this massive outage affected a whole lot of customers across the country. And if your social media feed is anything like mine, there are all kinds of people claiming it could be anything from solar flares to widespread hacking, rogue AI, but there is no official explanation for what happened right now. Even the White House currently seems to be at a loss.
The bottom line is we don't have all the answers to that. I mean, this just happened earlier today, and so we're working very hard to see if we can get to ground truth of exactly what happened.
Now, at the peak of the outage this morning, more than 70,000 AT&T customers self-reported issues with New York, Atlanta, Chicago, and major cities in Texas hit the hardest, and it created some sort of a ripple effect on other carriers, with Verizon, T-Mobile, and Cricket all experiencing much smaller service issues throughout the day. And joining us now is NBC business and data correspondent Brian Chung. Brian, any updates on why this happened?
Yeah, well, first of all, AT&T says that its network is back up and running for its customers that may have been previously experiencing an outage across the day. But AT&T, in its official statements, has not offered any explanation for exactly what happened. And that's perhaps one reason why so many government agencies are now saying that they're looking into the matter. So the Department of Homeland Security, we also have the FBI, and then the Federal Communications Commission also said that it would be looking into the matter. But no one has said whether or not this is related to a hack, perhaps, or even weather-related issues. Maybe a satellite had problems. We just don't know exactly what the reason for this was. But what we do know is that a lot of people were disrupted today. Families unable to contact each other, small businesses unable to open, and also emergency services scrambling to offer alternatives for people that are in actual emergencies needing to dial 911. There were instances today where the San Francisco Fire Department was saying you might have to use a landline if you're in an emergency situation. In Boston, they were saying you could use a call box that's on the street. So this is very much a situation where we kind of recognize the importance of the basic utility of being able to make phone calls and also send text messages that, at least for 12 hours today, was a massive issue across this country, Gadi.
You're talking about these cities, and again, the numbers that we're seeing, it's important to note that these are self-reported, right, from customers. Do we have any idea on when we're going to actually know how widespread this really was?
Yeah, well, the numbers that you were mentioning earlier, they come from downdetector.com. This is basically a website where customers can come and report issues, not just with phone carriers, but with a various number of internet services. And that is self-reported, so it's not necessarily an all-encompassing figure that shows how many people were actually impacted, because the number did show the peak of around 70,000 reported issues earlier in the morning today. But it seems like anecdotally it covered a lot more people than that. I was getting messages across the day from people in all corners of the country, not just in the major cities, but in rural areas as well, saying they were experiencing issues. NBC News did reach out to AT&T for clarity in terms of how widespread this issue was and asked for a count. We have not heard back from AT&T. So again, we're still looking for the reasons for why this happened, in addition to how many people were affected, even though the outage itself appears to be resolved as of this evening.
And if we've learned anything in this digital world, a lack of answers is often such fertile grounds for conspiracy theories, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And we'll see. I mean, Twitter is already kind of bursting with theories over why this could be happening, and it's hard to substantiate any of those right now in the absence of AT&T saying anything. But we'll see if the government agencies that are looking into this have anything to say in the days, weeks, maybe months to come.
Fingers crossed. Brian Jung, thanks so much for joining us. And we're following some breaking news. The U.S. is expected to impose over 500 sanctions on Russia tomorrow. This is according to a Treasury spokesperson. Those sanctions will include Russia's enablers and war machine, and it is the biggest set of sanctions against Russia since the start of its invasion and war with Ukraine. This also comes on the heels of the death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. President Biden met with Navalny's wife today and promised sanctions against Putin, who he says is responsible for Navalny's death. And don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. A once very popular yoga chain is being accused of emotional and physical suffering from former students. We've got those details. Plus, Google is pressing pause on part of its AI tool, Gemini, because it's having some problems, especially when it comes to portraying people of color. And touchdown. For the first time in 50 years, a U.S. spacecraft has landed on the moon. So what does this mean for getting astronauts back up there? That's all ahead, so stay tuned. Hey there, welcome back. And here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. Both President Biden and VP Harris slammed the in vitro fertilization decision coming out of Alabama. Biden calling it a direct result of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and Harris blaming former President Trump. And United Health, a huge healthcare company in the United States, was hit by some sort of cyber attack. They say someone associated with a nation state got access to some of its IT systems, and the problem is isolated to their so-called Change healthcare system, while the rest of the company says it's okay. And the FBI informant charged with lying about President Biden and his son Hunter just got arrested again. Alexander Smirnov was arrested earlier today while at his lawyer's office, and this is just days after his first court appearance in Las Vegas. And Wendy Williams has been diagnosed with aphasia, a form of dementia. Former talk show host found out about this last year, and her team says that the conditions have presented some challenges in her life, though she's receiving medical care. And a passenger on an American Airlines flight tried to open an emergency door 30 minutes into a flight, and a bunch of other passengers had to tackle him. That flight was from New Mexico to Chicago. It had to be diverted, and the man was spotted being escorted off by police once it safely landed. And a Texas judge has ruled a local high school did not violate state law when it punished a black teenager for the length of his dreadlocks. 18-year-old Daryl George has been suspended since August, all because the school says his hairstyle doesn't comply with its dress code. His lawyer says George should be protected under new anti-discrimination law, but the judge clearly disagreed. George's family says they will continue to fight all this. And NBC's correspondent Morgan Chesky has more from today's ruling.
Yeah, Gadi, good evening. This legal saga that was taking place this morning in a courtroom not too far from Houston is now only being extended because of what this county judge ruled. And their decision today, Gadi, was that this school district, Barbers Hill, just outside of Houston, is not out of line in choosing to suspend their 18-year-old student, Daryl George, because they believe his current hairstyle does violate their student code of conduct. Now, of course, this news left the George family so emotionally distraught they weren't immediately able to address cameras after this news came. But we did have a chance to hear from friends and supporters of the family who say they do plan to appeal. Now, let's talk here just for a little bit about what exactly the issue is. This school has a policy that says a male student's hair cannot extend past their eyebrows or their earlobes. And they say that even though George chooses to wear his locks up, that it's still in violation of the student code of conduct, because if he were to let that hair down, it would violate the rules. Now, the judge said that the Crown Act, that is the state law that's currently in place to prevent race-based hair discrimination, was not violated in this case, and that the school has the right to do this. Meanwhile, we heard from authors of Texas's Crown Act who now say that they're willing to go back to the drawing board and create a more specific law here so that cases like Daryl's don't happen again. We do know that the superintendent of the district has only spoken out in a statement saying that he hopes this issue is legally resolved as soon as possible. Gadi.
Morgan Chesky, thanks so much. And some breaking news tonight in the race back up to the moon. Earlier tonight, the first American-built spacecraft since the Apollo mission in 1972 successfully landed on the lunar surface.
We can confirm, without a doubt, as our equipment is on the surface of the moon, and we are transmitting. So, congratulations, IM team. We'll see how much more we can get from that.
I know this was a nail biter, but we are on the surface, and we are transmitting. And welcome to the moon.
Houston, Odysseus has found his new home.
Odysseus has found its new home, a major moment in the modern-day race to the moon and beyond. The company partnering with NASA, Intuitive Machines, will now start to collect all kinds of data from its uncrewed autonomous lander named Odysseus from the landing site there near the moon's south pole. So where does that put America in the international space race? Well, there have been a lot of countries that have tried to land on the moon, some successfully, others not so much. Just in the last 5 years, Russia, Japan, and Israel have all tried and failed to land on the lunar surface. Of course, the United States has landed on the moon before during the Apollo missions, but that was more than 50 years ago. And there are some other countries that have done it, but much more recently. China beamed back images of the moon's far side back in 2020 after its successful lunar landing mission. And India has also done it just last year near the South Pole. So let's bring in astrophysicist and NASA advisor, Dr. Paul Sutter. First off, what a nail biter. We were hoping for some images. So far, I haven't seen much, just a faint signal. Is everything okay up there?
You know, considering what Intuitive Machines has just accomplished, everything is great. This is enormously complicated. Since the Apollo missions, half of all lunar missions have failed. This is an incredibly difficult thing to do. So the fact that the lander is on the surface apparently intact, transmitting back with Earth. That is 99% of the job. Now we get to assess what systems are still working, what is the condition of the lander, and if we can get some good science out of this mission. But we've learned so much already.
Speaking of systems that were working and then maybe systems that were not working, I saw NASA saying that they had problems with their flight radar system, and then they switched to like another system that they just kind of put on there to test to see if it would work, and that was their primary. Like, what makes all this so complicated?
Space is by far the most inhospitable environment we have ever explored as humans. There is nothing like it. And to travel to the moon, what this lander has accomplished, what every lunar mission has accomplished, it's like throwing a dart from Los Angeles to New York and hitting your mark to within an inch, while New York is traveling at tens of thousands of miles per hour. This is simply hard, and if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. But that's why these missions are powered not by machines, but by human minds, ingenious, brilliant people. In this case, the landing system, which was totally autonomous, totally computer controlled. There are no humans involved in this landing. The system, the radar system that it used to gauge the distance to the ground and find a good spot to land on, broke with hours to go. So they switched to one of the scientific instruments on board and patched a software update so that it could use the scientific instrument that wasn't supposed to be used until after it landed to land the spacecraft. That is pure human ingenuity.
Human ingenuity and some very fast thinking and a whole lot of debugging. I guess the South Pole, I do want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, a lot of people look up at the moon and see this beautiful orb. NASA's looking up there and seeing this beautiful kind of like gas station, right? I mean, can you walk us through why the pole is so important and what they're hoping to find there?
Exactly. What we are hoping to do with these missions is to lay the groundwork for a permanent human presence on the moon. Not just go and visit and sightsee, but build missions, build stations, build observatories so that we can study the moon, we can study our solar system, and we can provide a launch pad for further exploration. And one of the things we need if we want humans to be on the moon is water. We need a lot of water, and it's really expensive to bring water with us. And there are regions on the south pole of the moon in these deep craters that are hidden in permanent shadow all throughout the day, and they're cold enough to sustain pockets of water ice. We believe there are giant reservoirs of ice either on the surface or just under the surface, and we need to tap into that in order to provide a stable platform for habitation.
Here's hoping. Here's hoping. Paul Sutter, I could hang out with you all night. Thank you so much for joining us. And coming up, one successful yoga chain is now under fire again. Why former students of the Yoga to the People say they dealt with emotional and physical suffering. We've got those details. First, you gotta see this. At Children's Hospital in Atlanta, they know how to get the party started. One of their patients' Halo Walker got decked out with a disco ball, adding some Taylor Swift music, and we got an epic dance floor. The nurses planned this whole surprise party. Absolutely incredible. We'll be right back. Hey there, welcome back. And here are some of the stories we're following out west. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has announced almost 1,000 stores here in California sold recalled cheese products during a listeria outbreak recently. That list includes small and large chains alike, places like Food Max and Food for Less. The listeria outbreak earlier this month killed 2 people and made dozens of others sick. And China is sending the San Diego Zoo a new pair of giant pandas in an effort to boost panda diplomacy. Now, this move comes after only 4 pandas remained in U.S. zoos after China refused to renew loan agreements. San Diego Zoo hasn't had any pandas since 2019, but if all goes according to plan, it is expected to get a male and a female giant panda by the end of the summer. And the world's tallest man has reunited with the world's shortest woman in Irvine, California. That's the two right there. The contrast between them is stunning. They both have a difference of more than 6 feet in height. The man's shoe is almost as tall as the woman, and they both have unique conditions that have resulted in each of their respective heights. The man stands 8 feet 3 inches, while the woman is 2 feet 7 inches tall. And the last time they met was about 6 years ago in Egypt. And former members of the popular chain Yoga to the People are starting to speak out about some alleged traumatic experiences in the studio. That business shut down back in 2020 amid a tax fraud scandal, and now it's facing new allegations that students were subjected to grueling training styles and emotional distress. NBC News anchor Zincle Esamua has that exclusive report.
Yoga to the People was a multi-million-dollar yoga chain. Their philosophy, everyone should have free or cheap access to yoga. In early 2022, the FBI arrested 3 owners of the yoga chain, including founder Greg Gamuccio.
You may have heard of it. It was called Yoga to the People.
The leaders facing tax charges, pleading not guilty to defrauding the IRS. Now, former students have come forward. NBC News spoke to over a dozen people, some on record for the first time, recounting what they call emotional and physical suffering.
I was in pain. We were all in pain.
Founded in 2006, Yoga to the People's donation-based Pay What You Can model drew hundreds of students every day. Jackie Good found Yoga to the People in 2007 as an NYU student.
I had been practicing every day for about 2 months, and they noticed me. Greg approached me and asked if I wanted to teach. They seemed to be very cool to me, to my 21-year-old self.
But awe turned to discomfort.
There were lots of crazy exercises that I just gave them my trust, and I did. And now as an adult, I realized those things were pretty irresponsible.
To certify as a yoga teacher, there's a standard 200-hour course which nationally registers yoga instructors through Yoga Alliance. But former teachers at Yoga to the People tell us the studio's version of the training, while informative, was harmful.
We did the arm raising.
Arm raising?
Your arms gradually were raised until they were over your head, and then you held them over your head until it was physically painful.
Painful?
And yes, very.
NBC acquired a copy of the teacher training script from a former teacher. A few of the women we spoke to agreed to show us the pose used in the exercise.
What kind of effect could that have on someone's body?
If somebody doesn't have the actual strength to manage that, then that's when they could end up with smaller injuries that could progress to something a little bit more substantial.
They say arm raising and so-called truth circles were standard practice at Yoga to the People's trainings, where participants were prompted to share deep secrets and traumas.
They gave you a microphone and they said, look every single person in the eye and then tell them something you've never told anyone. And there was no aftercare. And before you left, they said, don't tell your family about this, they won't understand.
Former teacher Nikki Palma says she was most troubled by the lack of mental health support, including after when another student died by suicide while she was enrolled in teacher training. Today, Yoga to the People has shuttered, but Gamuccio and his attorney did not respond to the allegations about arm raising and the lack of support offered after the student's suicide. Jackie Good says she's been left with lifelong injuries.
In January of 2011, I broke my hip after class. I was being pushed into these extreme poses, and eventually I had a hip replacement.
Do you believe that would have happened if you hadn't been at Yoga to the People?
No.
Medical records do not identify a specific cause of the injury. In 2020, more students and former teachers shared their experiences at Yoga to the People in a now public Instagram page called YTTP Shadow Work. As the company's former leaders navigate legal proceedings, former students continue to share their stories.
Does the story end here?
No, absolutely not. Unfortunately, there are people that will take something like yoga and use it in a negative way and either exploit people or mistreat them. And I just want them to know that what they're feeling is real and that they're not alone in experiencing that.
Zincle Esamua, NBC News, New York.
And turning now to the West and one of the most important bodies of water we have, we're going to talk a little bit about Lake Mead. And in the last couple of years, we've spent a lot of time looking at the dwindling water levels there. That reservoir, which is connected to the Colorado River, supplies drinking water to around 25 million people across the Southwest. And at a time, it was getting dangerously close to becoming a dead pool, meaning the water level is so low that it wouldn't have been able to send water downstream. Now, in 2022, it even hit its lowest point ever recorded, about 145 feet from dead pool level. Since then, with all this rain we've been getting, the water level has gone up 31 feet. So the big question tonight, is that enough, or is that just a drop in a big old lake of a bucket? Joining us now to break it down is NBC national climate reporter Chase Kane. Chase, thanks so much for being with us. First off, is this very good news? I mean, 31 feet sounds like a lot, right? What's behind the rise?
Yeah, I mean, it's good news. 31 feet is a lot when you're talking about a reservoir as big as Lake Mead, the biggest in the United States. It's good news, but it's not great news, Gadi. We'll talk about that. But what's driving it is simply that there's more water coming in and a little bit less water going out. There have been a lot of water conservation measures put in place there in the Southwest, even some new agreements among states and tribes in the West to pull less water out of Lake Mead. And at the same time, over the last year, couple of years really, there's been a lot more rainfall in the lower elevations, a lot more snow in the mountains and the higher elevations. And so, more water is flowing into Lake Mead, a little bit less is coming out. But I said it's not great news, and that's because the long-term climate projections for the Southwest is that as the planet continues to get warmer, that area is going to get hotter, but it's also projected to get a lot drier, where it's going to be prone to more of these mega droughts, a drought lasting for 20 years. And by the way, it was a mega drought just earlier this century, just a couple years ago that ended, which was what brought Lake Mead down to some of those record low levels.
In California right now, it basically looks like we are out of a drought, but there are still a lot of places out west that are still seeing really dry conditions. When will Lake Mead be healthy? I mean, if we kept getting what we're seeing right now, how much of this do we need to see that lake restored?
I mean, a lot more, Gadi. And I don't know, frankly, if it's ever going to be, quote unquote, healthy, or if it's ever going to be completely full again, because, you think about the number of people that live in the Southwest. Two of the fastest growing states in the country are Arizona and Utah, right there by Lake Mead, Nevada, not far behind. So a lot more people are moving to this part of the country, which means a lot more demand for water. That's also a region where we grow a lot of food. So, if the lake is ever going to get back up to those levels, we're going to have to, consider the water use in places like the West. And at the same time, hope that we get more of these amazing atmospheric rivers that the West has gotten recently. But, I don't think that's a long-term insurance policy to say, hey, we hope it keeps raining so that we can, continue supplying our water needs as we're using it now.
Yeah, certainly an unpredictable one. Chase Kane, thanks so much for joining us. And still to come, Gaza's youngest survivors, more than 36 premature infants, almost didn't make it in the start of the war, and we've got their incredible stories when we come back. So stay tuned. The Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City has been a focal point in the Israeli-Hamas war almost from the beginning. A matter of weeks into that conflict, the Israeli military warned they were going to storm it. Then they did, and they left the fates of dozens of premature babies in the balance. Now, this is a story about what happened to those babies, and a warning. Some of what you're about to see is tough to watch.
It's mostly quiet in the neonatal unit at this Egyptian hospital. Except for the humming of incubators keeping infants alive. Most of these babies recently arrived alone. Nurse Wafa Ibrahim is one of their caregivers here in Cairo.
How does it feel to be taking care of this baby like this?
وشعورنا كأمهات يعني عامة يعني احنا دول زي ولادنا واحنا فلسطين طبعا اخواتنا طبعا واحنا يعني بنعملهم دول ولادنا يعني وطبعا كلهم يكونوا كويسين احنا بنزعل طبعا ان هم بيحصل لهم كده وهم يعني ربنا يعني حرام والله.
Known as the babies of Al-Shifa, they are some of the youngest survivors of the Israel-Hamas war. Many of them were born before October 7th, 2023, when Hamas terrorists killed more than 1,200 people in southern Israel. Wardeh and Jalal State were living in northern Gaza at the time of the attack. They had just welcomed their baby boy Anas, born prematurely at Gaza's premier Al-Shifa Hospital.
الطفل هذا انظلم جو زي اللي عاشوه اخوته يلاقي لعب يلاقي العاب يلاقي غذاء يلاقي حليب.
Israeli airstrikes forced the family to evacuate to the south, along with hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. Baby Anas was left behind, with more than 36 other infants receiving care at Al-Shifa's NICU.
احنا قاطعين الامل انه عايش اصلا، احنا قلنا خلص انس مستشهد يعني.
قبل الحرب ب3 ايام كان اخر لقاء لي انا وامه، وصارت الحرب وما قدرناش يعني نروح على الشفاء.
NBC News met Dr. Nasser Bolbo just 10 days into the war. Even then, he told us, they were struggling with shortages at Al-Shifa.
We have no empty incubators for these cases. A lot of cases here is so very critical, depend on electrical power. Where the electric stop will be catastrophic events for all of cases.
Located in Gaza City, Al-Shifa quickly became a refuge for thousands looking for safety. But images from its ER told a different story, with conditions deteriorating by the day. The hospital became a focal point of the war, with the IDF alleging Hamas used the complex as a command center. And by November 12th, Israeli troops surrounded the hospital. NBC News tried calling doctors every hour to find out what was happening inside.
Hi, this is Erin from NBC News.
Has the Israeli military offered any other assistance?
My name is Erin McLaughlin.
They told us they were cut off from food, water, medical supplies, and fuel for electricity.
If you can hear in the background, it's like bombardment and bombing of the hospital and from all sides. They are just dying slowly in front of us. No one has said anything.
Power losses made the incubators unusable, forcing doctors to move the Al-Shifa babies to a temperature-controlled operating room. Dr. Ahmed El-Mukhalalati was desperate to let the international community know what was happening at the hospital. He sent these images from the complex rooftop.
I was going to the really periphery of the hospital at the highest place, totally exposed to the snipers.
So you risked your life to get the pictures of those babies out to the world?
I think so, yeah. Hearing the gunshots hitting the wall just beside you. I have to tell everyone in the world what's happening in Gaza.
Time is running out for dozens of premature babies whose incubators can't run without power.
The U.S. urged Israel today not to fire any more munitions at Al-Shifa Medical Center.
We do not want to see a firefight in a hospital.
The IDF provided additional incubators and some fuel. Days later, the Israeli military raided the hospital, showing a tunnel entrance and weapons on its grounds, as well as evidence the complex was used to hold some hostages.
Mothers, patients, wounded, doctors, all being a human shield for this tunnel system.
U.S. intelligence supports these claims, according to a U.S. official. But NBC News cannot independently verify them. On November 19th, the World Health Organization entered the hospital and called it a death zone. Doctors said that 6 of the Al-Shifa babies had died. The rest were in extremely critical condition. Without intervention, death was all but certain. The WHO led a high-risk mission to move 31 babies to Al Emirati Hospital in Rafah.
كنا في كل لحظة نترقب الأخبار يعني ما فيش أخبار مؤكدة أن الولد عايش 100.
كنت مقطعة عن اتصالي بابني. هلقيتها أنا لي تقريبا 45 يوم.
Baby Anas's parents rushed to Al Emirati Hospital, hoping their son was among the rescued infants. They scanned the list of names, and there he was, Anas.
بقت الحياة إلنا.
Many of the Al-Shifa babies were suffering from dehydration, sepsis, and hypothermia. With Gaza's healthcare system overwhelmed, it was decided they would go to Egypt for treatment. Warde and Jalal were faced with an impossible choice. Keep baby Anas with them in a war zone, or send him to Egypt where he'd be safer. Because only mothers were allowed to accompany the babies across the border, they chose to stay together.
وقلنا إذا خلص يا بنعيش مع بعض يا بنموت مع بعض. وإيش بيجي من ربنا يعني الحمد لله إحنا راضيين.
At this point, they were sheltering at a school in Khan Yunis.
الحمد لله لقينا موجود يعني ما شفناهوش شيء.
Most of the Al-Shifa babies were sent to Egypt for care. Two of those babies are Noor Albana's twin daughters. They were born premature before the war. Now they're Al-Shifa survivors. Noor is a new mom. The baby in the incubator is her daughter, Leen. Noor has never touched her daughter until now.
أول شيء خوف لأن أول مرة ألمسها يعني أول مرة أمسك إيدها أول مرة أمسك وجهها.
Leen's twin sister Leanne is being treated in another part of the hospital. Leanne is strong enough for her mother to hold her.
Did you think this moment would be possible?
صراحة لا ما كنتش متوقعة إنه يكونوا لسه عايشين. صرت أبكي عيط يعني.
Noor is the only mother here.
When you see this row of babies without moms, what goes through your mind?
كيف حيتربوا من غير الأم والأبو؟ مين حيربيهم؟ مين حيهتم فيهم؟ إيش الرعاية اللي حياخدوها بعد رجوعهم لغزة؟
Dr. Mohammed Abu Sakin introduces us to another baby, known only as Halima, thought to be his mother's name. He lost his eye in Gaza. It's unclear what happened to him and his family. We first saw baby Halima in that footage from Al-Shifa.
We received this boy by severe general condition. Now, near to be completely recovered, near to be. For the psychological side, I think he will not recover. No one with him at all. No one with him. He's alone. He's alone. During sleeping, I dream by this boy.
You dream of this boy?
Yes.
What?
Actually, a dream that is happy. This boy is happy.
Egyptian and Palestinian authorities believe most of the babies have surviving families. Finding them is a top priority. Noor says once her girls are ready, they'll return to Gaza.
اللي عايزة أرجع بالرغم من الضرب والقصف إن أنا بدي أكون موجودة بين أهلي. إن أنا قلقانة عليهم. وجودي بينهم حتى لو كان بالضرب بخلينا مطمنة عليهم.
Weeks after baby Anas's homecoming, we found his family at a tent encampment in Rafah. They were once again forced to relocate due to bombing near their shelter in Khan Yunis.
يعني الليلة ما احنا نزحنا من خانونس كان ليلة كتير جامدة يعني كلها هي تصحينا من النوم لقينا كل العمارات اللي حوالين المدرسة كلها الريحات يعني كان بالمرة رعب. خليت أنس صار عمره 4 شهور.
Baby Anas survived Al-Shifa, but survival in Gaza remains a daily struggle.
بنجهز فيه الرضعة كله تلوث على الرمل. أنا مش عارف أنا كيف بدي أتحمل هيك الجو كيف بدي أتحمل هيك الظروف معيشية. صياحي له بيجي 4-5 أيام موجوع الولد منفوخ
برد
من البرد.
بس إن شاء الله الظروف تساعدنا هيك نضلنا محافظين عليه وينمو بسلام الولد.
We'll be right back.
Gemini is our largest and most capable model. It means that Gemini can understand the world around us in the way that we do and absorb any type of input and output. So not just text like most models, but also code, audio, image, and video.
Back in December, Google announced the launch of Gemini, its latest AI chatbot that would compete with OpenAI's ChatGPT, Microsoft's, and the rest of them, right? And it was developed to recognize and understand all those different types of information you just heard. But now one of their latest AI products is currently on pause. Today, Google put a pause to Gemini's image generation feature, specifically images of people, after they were blasted on social media for generating images of people of color into places where they wouldn't historically appear, like this. These were the results of asking Gemini to generate an image of the founding fathers. Most of them look like what you'd expect the founding fathers to look like, but remember, some of them were slave owners, and there is a black man standing there as a founding father, or this one popping up when you ask it to generate a picture of a U.S. senator from the 1800s. Yeah, women's suffrage, remember that? Rebecca Felton, she served as the first female senator in 1922, so the 1800s, I mean, this is clearly off. And this all comes just one day after Google acknowledged the issues in a statement saying that Gemini does generate a wide range of people, which is, quote, generally a good thing, but saying it missed the mark here. Now, if you ask Gemini to produce an image of a person or a specific group of people today, a message pops up saying the feature is currently being worked on and is going to return soon. And joining us now is NBC News correspondent Priya Sridhar. Priya, when you see this, I mean, the average person is going to be like, wait a minute. I see something off here. But a computer, like, how do you explain this to a computer?
That's a great question, and I think computer coders are trying to figure that out right now. But I think it brings up the debate about how exactly do we want to use AI in our society? Is it supposed to be a fun tool? Is it supposed to be an aspirational tool? Or is it supposed to be an accurate depiction of history? And if you ask people on the internet their reaction to some of these pictures that we're looking at right now, you know, some people found them funny. Other people were very offended, and still others thought that, you know, maybe this is a conspiracy theory and Google is trying to kind of push some sort of culture wars or social agenda down our throats and put representation in places where it didn't exist. But for a lot of people, they were offended because they felt like, listen, you know, this is erasing hundreds of years of gender and racial discrimination, and we shouldn't be inserting pictures, especially if potentially these tools could be used in educational settings with children. You know, they should have an accurate depiction of what actually happened back in the 1800s or what happened with the founding fathers.
It's funny because, I mean, you ask ChatGPT or any of these services, like, what is nuance? It will give you a very wonderful definition of what is nuance. But this is like a case in point of AI doesn't understand nuance, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think, you know, it also brings up the question as to whose job is it to sort of police these platforms to make sure that they're depicting things accurately, right? Is it, you know, we've seen that discussion happen on social media platforms as well. And then I think especially this year in an election year, you're seeing AI being used in videos with different politicians or candidates saying things that didn't actually happen. So, I mean, it can be really powerful. It can be a very useful tool, but it can also be kind of dangerous, especially when we're talking about disinformation and trying to decipher between that nuance that you were just saying.
So much of the data set is secretive with these companies, and we don't know really how a lot of these things work. But how do you code for everything from like history to skin tone to climates to, you know, oppression? How do you code that into a data set when you're trying to generate images?
And maybe the answer is that you can't. And then how do we, you know, we have to figure out, again, like, how do we regulate it and how do we want to use this tool? And so I think that's something that, you know, these companies are trying to figure out right now. Obviously, we've seen the big tech companies go to Congress, testify in front of Congress about AI and how this should be used and who should be monitoring them. But I mean, this is very much uncharted territory. So it's still uncertain exactly how that's all going to work.
Uncharted territory, and a lot of people are offended. I got to say, my first reaction when I saw this was like, whew, I am smarter than an AI. Thank goodness. This is one of those things where it clearly didn't pass a Turing test. Priya, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks.
And that does it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.